well, at this time, I'd like to welcome our special guest today, Mr. Jason Carmichael. He is the Director of Athletics at the University of West Georgia, and Greg Garza, former Atlanta United Football Club player and founder of Beyond Goals Mentoring. If you'd come on up, we'd love to hear from you guys. And thank you for being with us today.
Well, thanks for having us. I'm looking forward to this. I have the close seat here with the man who everybody was running up to meet before, so I had the grouping energy going as Greg was made visible to all the open doors. So we've got a few scripted questions we're going to get through today, and again, thank you for Sarah and Chris and everybody else who set this up. And I just found it kind of a privilege to get to know. I've heard a little bit of Greg's story, but to get an opportunity to lead him through it here and telling you about some of the great work he's already been doing and hopes to do in the future. So we're going to get started with some questions. You got me still? Okay, great. And then hopefully have some time at the end for questions as well. So, and I think Greg will probably be asked to sign an autograph or two or something like that, I'm sure. I'm sure he's used to that by now. So let's get started with an easy one, Greg. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your leadership journey, the things that have really guided you to this point in your career, and then we'll kind of go from there. So,
yeah, for sure. First and foremost, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure being here. My leadership journey. I think if I were to speak about my journey in life and as a professional soccer player, recently retired, we'd probably be here until tomorrow. But I would say it started at a very young age with just mentorship. I think I had the right guides, the right coaches, the right mentors to really pave that pathway for success for myself at a very young age. I had to make a very difficult and probably the most important decision of my life when I was about 11 years old, to leave my parents, leave my friends, leave my family, and move to a different continent, a different country, a country that I did not know the language, did not know the culture, and I went by myself. And that was the start of my dream. That was the start of the aspirations that I wanted in the future, and I would say that's where that leadership journey probably started, and having that opportunity, and learning different backgrounds of different cultures, and really nitpicking everything I learned from all different coaches and guides that really, like I said before, paved that pathway to success for me. I think, and just really paying attention to what all those different people brought to the table for me, and gaining that experience. And just learning from so many different communities and cultures, and having that opportunity really allowed me to grow as a player, but even more so as a person.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you this because we were talking about it before. How old were you again, and where did you go at that age?
I was 12 years old when I left home to start my journey to become a professional soccer player. I went to Brazil, Sao Paulo, Brazil. I was there for 2 years, stayed with the foster family in the beginning, and then lived at the academy, which is very, quite common in other countries rather than the United States. That's the real journey of a lot of soccer players that go through that same platform, that same environment of being with each other, from a very young age, and it's actually getting younger now that time has passed. But without that, I don't think I would be the person or the player I was in my career. So very grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Greg and I were talking before. We have children now that are in that age bracket, and I'm just thinking through sending my child. My wife would probably be on board with that sometimes, sending our child to any other country besides my house. But to send someone that young abroad, I'm sure it's probably, and you've already indicated it has, and you told me before this, and you've already said it here, it really helps shape you, and it shapes your experience, probably makes you have a level of self-awareness at a very early age that's probably going to impact the things you're doing even today, which is what we're going to talk about. So tell us about how those experiences have now really formed the person that sits here today, and really formed the company that you've launched as well, this nonprofit you've launched. And tell us really what you're trying to do with Beyond Goals. Tell us about it, actually, if you would, and then what you're hoping to get done with that, how those experiences have helped shape what you're doing with it.
Yeah, I think it honestly started within Brazil. I tell a lot of people within my own journey and within my own story. I was the average American kid. My dad was a salesman in telecommunications. My mom, fortunately, didn't work. And they gave me that opportunity to really follow my dreams. Getting there to Brazil, I had my Game Boy. That was my kind of escape probably within learning the language. I tell people that all the time. And I think seeing these 10, 11-year-old kids walking down from the slums or taking the bus to get to training, that to me was all brand new. Understanding that these kids did not have the same opportunities that I did as an American, or these kids did not have the same opportunities as me in being there, right? That was their only outlet. That was their only way out of maybe those impoverished communities that they grew up in. So I think seeing that from a very early age and understanding what life is all about and growing up very fast really led me to understand the dynamic of what so many kids go through all around the world. I tell a lot of people today that it's not only that God-given talent, because that's just one key component, and probably the not the most influential one to have within becoming successful or using athletics for a college education or just becoming someone in the future, right, for all of these kids. The key components are everything that's around that, the structure that they have, what their home life is, the mindset that they create for themselves, all the frustrations that they may go through from the mental side of things. So, there are so many different vital and critical components to be successful, and I think with all those experiences that I have had, and I think I use that as well as expressing my story and knowing so many players at such a young age, or even gaining more experience within my career that come up as rookies, that sign really great contracts that don't last 2 years, or these young kids that had so much more talent than myself, or so much more talent than guys that have made it, but we're just missing all of those other key components.
I want to have you drill down a little bit, because I know when we were talking before, one of the things you referenced, I think you actually, I don't know if it was a specific scene, but you had memories of seeing those rookies coming through and seeing them, like you said, just there. I mean, I would use the word flame out or not last very long. What do you think in those moments, if you could have garnered their attention in those moments, what are the kind of the traits that really, I know you're doing through Beyond Goals right now, what are the kind of key one-word characteristics you think that are lacking in some of those situations?
The one word for me that stands out to most young pros or young athletes that are really trying to find that path to create their own success and create their own personal journey is consistency. I think for me, that's something, as I can say, I was a very successful pro to play at a high level for so many years, and the guys that are able to do that for so many years, and it's consistent in everything. The way you carry yourself, being a role model, the leadership qualities that you hold, so many different things, the mindset that you have, dealing with frustrations, dealing with adverse moments, just really having a consistent mindset and continuing to grow and having the willingness and want to learn. I think to me that's the most important thing that stood out, and that's something that we really try to dive in deep and getting to know these kids that we are working with today, and understanding their background and understanding how we can nip the bud so much earlier in their process, rather than them getting to a stage to where they do have an opportunity to become a professional, or they do have an opportunity to use athletics for a college education even further, that they hold these qualities that are needed to stay consistent.
That's good. And I know with Beyond Goals, you're looking at a large swath of different ages and different life circumstances that you're dealing with your clients. But in particular, is there a uniform kind of pressure, adversity? You mentioned adversity. What are you seeing in today's modern society that's really impacting the athletes that you're working with? And again, I know it's going to vary maybe by age, but in general, what are you seeing?
I would say the most difficult one is social media. That is probably the most difficult one we deal with a lot of these kids, because everything they do now is under a microscope, right? We say as a professional athlete, you're automatically a role model, but these kids at younger ages are becoming their own role models younger and younger. It's whether dealing with the external and exterior pressures from what today's world offers, and there is so many difficult moments that these kids go through. A lot of pressured moments to where, as said before, these kids are put into opportunities at the age of 12, 13, of speaking to agents, or dealing with outside pressures that are out of their control. example of social media, and just how to really, contain those thoughts for themselves and how to guide them through, and like before, creating that consistency for themselves and understanding what their strengths are, understanding what they can control, and kind of letting everything else just kind of guide them through their own journey. We deal with a lot of kids that go through so many different adverse situations, whether it's dealing with injury, whether it's dealing with coaches that are getting on to them too much. It's the amount of pressure that these kids have today in athletics is so much more than what we dealt with when we were kids. And the way that these kids hold themselves accountable and responsible for these actions that are taken is unbelievable. We as mentors, we continue to learn what is going on in today's world with these kids' minds, and it's really just having that want and willingness to have the ability to listen to what they're going on with every single day, and how we can kind of structure a guided plan that they can continue to follow and hopefully be successful with.
So take me behind the scenes a little bit with social media, because you played in an age where it was ramping up, and I'm sure it's probably a lesson you're able to share with your clients, right? With the young people you work with. What advice would you give them if I was sitting here today and a 15-year-old phenom was sitting in front of you? What would you say? I'm not that person, by the way. So I never was that person. But if you were to advise them today, or what tips did you learn? Let's just use social media, because I know there's probably lots of people in the room that either have to use it or they wish their kids didn't use it. So what advice do you give to those young people when they ask those questions specifically? Don't read your comments. Don't get your DMs. What do you tell them in those moments?
I think with a lot of these young athletes, there will always be criticism, because you're living under that microscope, right? It's how you deal with that criticism and how you focus on your strengths and your own positives within yourself. That's something that we really focus on, and not allowing them to ever focus on their weaknesses. We have weakness as one of our vocabulary words that we don't use with any of our sessions, but just to allow them to understand their own goals, their own objectives, their own strengths, their own positive moments that they have within themselves, and how they're able to continue to grow and create that consistency within those elements of what they have as a player and as a person. We try and guide them through the ways that social media can be an outlet of visibility, can be an outlet to use that goodness of whatever they do. And I think for myself as a player that had that platform to use social media as such a good outlet to continue to spread the good word of what we did as players and what we did as people, kind of just guiding them and using that own personal experience to where they can really follow into those footsteps.
Yeah, I would say, we've interacted a few times now on this leading up to this, and I would say one of the takeaways for me, and not to steal any thunder from our remaining questions, but is I just like how you approach it with proactively going to something as opposed to reacting to something. And I think social media is fraught with, you can react all day to things, but I think how you just shaped it there is a great lesson for every young person, every person having to use it, is know what you're trying to do with it. What are you actually trying to proactively accomplish with it? So I appreciate that. And I will say, just again, we've had a few opportunities to interact. What's the most satisfying part about the Beyond Goals partnership, the launch of it and the partnership you get to have with your clients? What's the most satisfying thing so far that you found in the process?
Yeah, we have a lot of mentees. I think for us as mentors, myself and Michael Parkhurst, my co-founder, who is the ex-captain, also retired player for Atlanta United. He was my captain when we won the championship in 2018. I think for us is the most satisfying thing is seeing these kids grow internally, and then just having that confidence that we know they deserve, and unfortunately, it's something that they may not see. I tell a lot of parents as well that it's one thing when you're a dad and you're able to talk to your son, or you're telling your son they need to do something, or try and guide them in the right ways. But sometimes it doesn't have that amount of impact when somebody has been there, done that, or somebody has had that experience. I have 5 kids of my own, and if I tell every single one of my kids who plays soccer to do something, they don't see me as Greg Garza, they see me as dad, and it goes through one ear and it goes right out the other. But if I had Michael Jordan or LeBron James send them a message and say, hey, if you do this or if you really focus on this, it would just have that much more of an impact. So I think that for us is the most satisfying thing, is seeing how much of an impact we are able to have on these kids, to really let them understand the confidence that they do deserve as not only human beings, but also players on the field. And whether it's kids that we have dealt with that have gone through adversity from injuries, it's also using that personal experience and helping them understand that, hey, we've been there, done that. This is what we did. This is how we kept that consistent structure to be successful in what we did. And for us, I think at the end of the day, seeing these kids grow, like I said, internally, but hopefully one day having testimonials of these kids using college or using athletics to create a college opportunity, or even getting further in life and saying, we had great mentors and we had great guys within our lives as well. And I think for me, I had that as a very young athlete and as a very young person, to learn all the do's and don'ts, and learn on the rights and wrongs, and really just spreading and paying it forward to these kids is now our mission and now our goal.
No, that's a great answer, and I love hearing you talk about it. Again, the few times I've seen you talk about it, and even reading after the stuff that you've published, I know it motivates you, and you almost levitate off the chair. You didn't, but you almost levitated off the chair. And later on, I want to talk to you about the hacks of having 5 boys under one roof and how you manipulate the soccer system a little bit, maybe to get them all on one team, or how that works. I know that's a science act of a miracle, whatever it would be, to get that done for my own family. So, one of the things in my seat that I see as a director of athletics is, we see student athletes facing a lot of challenges today that really they probably didn't exist, or they weren't in the current form. They certainly didn't exist 10 or 15 years ago. So, and it feels like it's coming from every angle. And I go back to what I said about social media, but it's true of a lot of other fronts too. You can sit around and react to those things and really pull someone. You can decrease their energy, you can decrease performance, all those things. We all know that, we all hear that the headspace is essential now to have control of. How do you, but it's also a vague thing. When I hear that, even with sports psychiatrists, I sit with them and they approach us about services. You don't always, and this is a unique opportunity for our audience today, you don't always get a chance to maybe even, we don't need to role play it, but take us behind the scenes of how you really, maybe soup to nuts, how you deal with that. Somebody comes in and maybe that's it. You can see the physical tools, but you know that there's something going on, we would say, between the ears, so to speak. How do you start that process with a client?
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, is that every kid is so different in their own individual way, right? They all think differently, they all act differently, and just really understanding where they come from, what their background is, what their family structure is, what their home life is, what their friends' life is. We really try and custom tailor our program to each and every single one of those kids. I tell a lot of our parents that we ultimately work with as well, that play a huge part in their development as well, is that it's really creating that big brother companionship. It's having someone that these kids can really relate to, understanding their experience of what they've already gone through, and then I said before, and one of the other questions as well, is really implementing ways and structures for them to focus on those strengths. As long as you can create that consistent mindset and for them to continuously focus on those strengths, for us, nothing else matters, right? And I think for all of us as parents and for all of us, I did it as a player as well. I would finish that game, and that's one question that we really ask all of our mentees. And it's probably one of the first questions we ask our mentees is, whenever you finish that game and you get in that car with your dad or your mom, what do you guys talk about after that game? And I guarantee you every single one of them will say all the things I could have done better, all the things that I should have done better. The first thing my dad says is I should have made that shot, or the first thing that my mom says is you should have won that tackle, or whatever it may be. In all athletics, right? We put all of this within our subconscious. We put all of this negative energy in everything that we do. So we have so many different structures and plans for these kids to finish those games and solely have 5 minutes to themselves, to where they can really focus on those positive things that they were able to accomplish and achieve, and get rid of all of that negative energy, those mistakes that will always happen within games or with whatever decisions that they make throughout the game or throughout trainings, and just really focus on those strengths and positives.
Yeah, that's excellent. In soccer, similar to baseball, is fraught with lots of opportunities to talk about mistakes. So I think it's the discipline needed and the encouragement needed, the mentorship needed to do that is essential if someone's going to really develop in that space. Because, we had personal anecdote, our women's soccer team advanced this year to the conference finals through some very low scoring games, right? Some 0-0s going to the PKs, right? And so there's all kinds of things in your sport. You can go back over time and go, this could have happened, that could have happened. And it does feel like we're in a society right now that wants to critique, going back to social, they just wants to critique every mistake you make. So kudos to you for working through that. I'm certainly, know we have that struggle with the athletes we work with too, as far as just trying to get into that space and help them have a positive mindset. So let's talk about this. Again, I just mentioned we get approached all the time about mental health and some service or some sports psych or mentorship. How do you push the edge with Beyond Goals right now? What are you looking to grow into? How are you trying to innovate and grow in this space right now? Because again, a lot of people are jumping into this. The pandemic's probably accelerated people coming to the market with concepts like this. So how are you seeing yourself grow right now with the business?
Yeah, for us, it's all about connections, right? It's all about using those connections that we had, whether as players or whether as people within our careers, and connecting with these people that may be sports psychologists, or connecting with these people that have the ability to continue to want to develop these players. That's why we do this. We're so passionate with what we do, and it's not we're better than these sports psychologists, or we're able to provide or offer more. It's we all want the same thing. We all want these kids to develop at the fastest and highest rate possible, and we're willing to implement our services and our offerings within all of these other people as well, and creating those connections. I think our next step, now that we have a lot of mentees that do work with us, and we work with so many different clubs and so many different organizations that really allow us to implement our services within their organizations. Our next step is really to create sponsorships within corporations, whether it's in Atlanta or whether it's within the States, since we work virtually and we're able to connect with so many different people around the States, and really providing for these kids who aren't able to pay for our services, or the lower income communities, to where we really create these sponsorship opportunities to where we can start our why statement, our mission statement of really helping these kids that maybe deal with different things that are going on at home, right? That's one thing that I did in my personal time as a player. When I played here in Atlanta, I spoke to tons of different middle schools or high schools, and I always spoke to troubled children. That's a huge passion of mine. But there's one thing that we were able to speak about within those talks and those conversations that we had, and it was their outlet, and it was a ball. And so for us, using that passion to really help and guide these kids that may not have that family structure, may not have that ability or opportunity to pay for our services, it's really connecting the dots and with these larger corporations and saying, hey, this is a huge element that we're all facing right now. A huge obstacle that we're all facing right now is the mental health part of it, and using us as resources and using other people as resources, whether it's sports psychologists, and helping these kids that do have a God-given talent but are just missing all of those other vital and key components. How can we come together and create that opportunity for these kids to flourish?
I've never asked you this, and the couple times we've talked, and this is a little bit unscripted, but tell me, have you been able to, because I know the footprint for the company, or right now, you're pretty broad, right? I mean, as far as you probably have clients, I think we did talk about this, you've got clients, they're not all in Georgia, obviously, right? So tell me how that works if you've got a client, if you've got a mentee in Oregon, how does that work for you? And are you finding it to be effective in this age now? How does that work? And is that a best practice for you to do it that way, or would you rather have them in person? And talk to me about growth in that space too. How's that going for you?
I think COVID has really helped with that and allowing us to.
COVID's helped. I love the positivity of it, right? I just wanted to seize on that. You'd mentioned that before, something like that. I wanted to seize on that. So I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to jump in and say that we're dealing with the video too as well. Right. So I'm curious where you're at with it.
Yeah, I would say that's the only thing I was going to say. And COVID has helped in allowing us to create those virtual meetings with people that are going through these things. We do have kids that we mentor within California. We have kids within Texas. We have kids within Philadelphia, within New York, within Florida, all around the states. And I think for us, having that ability and opportunity to connect with them virtually is almost as beneficial as connecting them with in person. Obviously, with in person, you get that different feel, and sometimes with the parents, having their doubts or really connecting with their kids sometimes can be quite difficult. But for us, we are able to use our same structure, use our same plans, and I think, like I said from before, really create that big brother companionship to where these kids, whether they're in Texas, whether they're in California, really connecting with them and understanding their frustrations, understanding what they're going through, and just being that role model for them and using our own personal experiences to help guide them through whatever it may be that they're going through. That's been the most beneficial thing for us, and really having these mentees all around the states.
That's awesome. Kind of wrapping up here, and we'll take questions, I think, here at the end. But if you're sitting in front of a bunch of business leaders and community leaders, and I would say one of the things we always sell with athletics is that, and you know this as well, and certainly you're a product of it and representative of it, is the skills and traits we learn and the things that we go through, the adversity we go through. It may just be on the pitch even, but the things we go through that we overcome through the vehicle of athletics are going to impact us as future employees, as future business leaders. What's a note of inspiration, I guess, you would share with us? Obviously you're a very passionate guy, right? I mean, you're passionate about this. You've been passionate about your career. What's kind of a focal point of inspiration or a takeaway you would give us today, as far as it has been a period of time where there's been a lot of gloom and doom. I mean, there's been a lot of reasons to be negative in this world. When you go through a pandemic, that's one of the byproducts, exacerbated now by the age we live in. So. And just in general, I mean, what would you share for an inspirational token, or whatever you want to call it? What would you give us today to help us, just in our own weeks, but also as we're all dealing with employees and people that aren't playing on the pitch but are doing work for us or work with us? What's the takeaway you would give us?
Yeah, for sure. I think within my own personal career, I followed my dream from a very young age. I did it with passion. But I think the most important and valuable thing for myself and also for Michael Parker, as my other co-founder as well, is just the ability and willingness to want to always learn and want to always hear others. For us, now that we have stopped playing, right, we had such successful careers, and we weren't able to do that without watching video analysis every single day and listening to all these great coaches and all these great mentors that we had that led us to do what we're so passionate about today. And I think for us, even as learning with our mentees, right, we're still learning with them every single day. Even though we're the ones guiding them, right, we're still learning that all these different issues that they're dealing with are things that, okay, wow, this times are changing, right? These are things that maybe we have not dealt with, but in today's world, a lot of kids deal with. So I think for us is just always having that willingness and want to always have open ears and open eyes towards everything, and just always wanting to learn more as we, I'm sure everybody in this room has had a mentor by their side to guide them. I was very fortunate enough to have mentors in my life that led me to be so passionate about what I do today, and continuing, creating those leadership qualities for yourself is always learning from others, right? In my own opinion, no one's born a leader. You acquire those qualities, right? Whether it's being a silent leader through action, or whether it's being a communicative one through being vocal. So all of those leadership qualities and creating your own success is always about learning from others.
Well, I think we landed with like 5 minutes to go, maybe. I'm getting a nod here. So I think we're going to open the floor up maybe for questions, I guess. Sarah? Do we want to, and how do you want to do it? We want to just have people stand up and call it out, or Gil's mobilizing, or what do you want to do? Yeah, go for it.
You're an elite athlete. Probably your parents discovered that you had a talent, and they helped foster that for you. What advice would you give to parents who discover that their child has a talent, and how do we help them achieve their goals?
So the question was, how would Greg advise a parent who identifies their child as having elite talent? How would they foster that? So
That's a great question. I actually mentored a kid last night who is 13 years old and has the opportunity to move to Austin by himself. His parents asked me, what should they do? And I said, you should let him follow his dream. If that's what he wants to do, then that's what he wants to do. As long as you continue to find people that can guide him or guide them towards understanding what an education is, which is huge for us. For myself, I became a professional soccer player at the age of 16 years old. I could have gone to any college I wanted to within the United States on a full ride. And that was my dream, to become a professional soccer player. I told my parents, I promise you, I will use my money that I'm going to make as a professional soccer player to get my own education, to still go to college and earn my degrees, in which I did. But when there's opportunity knocking at the door, guiding them into whatever they want to do, I think is the most important thing I can say as a parent, and also someone who has been there and done that. And my parents had absolutely no idea what opportunities were out there. That initial conversation of when I was 11 years old with my mentor, and who today rests in peace, but got to see me grow and become that professional soccer player at the end of the day. My parents had no idea what he was talking to us about leaving the country at 11, 12 years old, but he used his own experience to really guide us in making that most critical decision, because without that, I wouldn't be the player or the person I was today. So I would say, when there's opportunity knocking at the door, you gotta take it.
Yes.
In the first place, why Brazil and not Italy or anywhere else? Question number 2, do you speak Spanish? And where exactly are your roots from?
So the question, 2 questions. One, why Brazil and not Italy or any other country, I suppose? And then a linguistic question, where are your roots, and are you, what languages do you speak? I'm sure you've traveled to other countries as well, so we can go through both those.
If I had the opportunity to go to Italy when I was 12 years, I would have chosen Italy any time over anything else, right? No, it's like I said, whatever opportunity is there for us as kids. It was a difficult decision for me to make, and also for my parents, probably much difficult. I was an only child, so that was a very difficult decision for them to make. Ultimately, it led for me to conquer my dreams and become the person I am today, and gaining that, those cultural teachings and learnings that I was able to acquire over the years that I did live there. I never went back home since. After that, I lived in Florida for about 2 years at a residency program, and after that, I became a professional in Portugal, and I played there for about 4 years. After that, I got traded, or I got sold to another team in Mexico, and I played in Mexico for 5 years. I came to Atlanta for 2, played in Cincinnati for 2 after that, and now called it quits. But I'm so grateful for all those opportunities, and I speak 3 languages. I'm trilingual fluently, yeah.
All right, yes.
Now that you're retired, what do you miss most about being a professional athlete?
That was, so what do you miss most about being a professional athlete?
I would say for us, the most difficult thing after retiring is routine and rituals. If we go back and we look at my whole entire career, I played professionally almost for 13, 14 years, but I did the exact same thing every single day for 17 years of my life. And that, to me, and getting out of that routine, ritual-based lifestyle that I created in myself, was waking up every single day, probably having the same exact thing for breakfast every day, knowing my rituals and routines every time I stepped into that training facility, whether it was injury prevention, which we call prehab, whether it was taking care of my body after practice, we call post-rehab, all these different functions that and routines that I created for myself to always create that consistent platform for myself. When we end, we always say it's kind of a life and death situation for ourselves, because we now have to create new routines. So I would say that was probably the most difficult thing for me after really, deciding to retire, was waking up and not wanting to jump in my car and go to the training facility and start doing my prehab stretches or getting ready for what the day is to come. So I think, that's probably what I miss the most are those routines and rituals. And I'm a very superstitious person. So for me, it was on game day, I have to, or even today, I put my left shoe on first because I'm left-footed. There are certain things that you can probably speak to every single professional athlete. There's so many things that they have that they do exactly the same every single day, because that creates that mindset, of completing and accomplishing tasks for us. As long as at the end of the day I would go to sleep, I said, okay, I completed all these superstitions, I completed all these routines, rituals that I have, tomorrow's going to be a great day. So for me, it's now creating new tasks for myself and new routines and rituals to allow myself to feel that I'm succeeding in what I'm now doing.
Maybe time for one more, Gil? Yep, yes. Yeah, I think I'll frame it up a little bit. Just how do you balance the outside pressure saying you've got to do certain things, be responsible, and you've got goals that may take you away from those responsibilities. So what advice would you give someone who's dealing with that?
I would say use passion as an element to, guide yourself through everything that you do, right? Whether sometimes those outside factors play a huge role in your own development as a person, be passionate in anything that you decide to do. I can tell you that from my own personal experience. After doing the same thing for 17 years, I thought to myself, okay, now I have 50 more years or 60 more years to live life. I'm going to jump into a corporate job and I'm going to say, okay, this is what I have to do now because now I don't work anymore. I set myself up financially as a player and as a person to take care of my family for the rest of my life, but I got to do something within these next 50 to 60 years. And I didn't find passion in it, and understood that from right from the get-go, and said, you know what? I need to find things that are going to make me feel passionate about what I do every single day, what I wake up and do every single day. And now I get to do that. I get to make a huge difference in a lot of these kids' lives. I get to understand where they come from, what their background is, and help guide them towards creating their own journey in whatever life that may be. But I would say use passion as an outlet for whatever you do decide to do. And sorry, yeah, my roots, I'm actually Mexican American. My dad is from Tamaulipas.
Very quick, how comfortable do you feel right now, now that you have retired? I'm pretty sure you found the passion now.
Yeah. So have you found the passion that you spoke that you were seeking after you retired? Have you found it again?
This is my passion, yeah. And if I were to look back in my career, look back at...
In this audience are dealing with the same thing. I'm about to retire.
Can you say it again?
Like, I run a hotel. Pretty soon I'll sell it, and then I've been thinking, what shall I do? And I'm working on it on several of these.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So how do you discover the next passion then? Okay.
I discovered it a long time ago, just didn't have the time to.
Oh. Okay.
Now I am.
All right. Well, Gil, I'm going to turn it back over to you if that's all right. And then I think there's maybe some housekeeping do we just stand here and smile, or do you need us to get Greg ready to sign autographs? What do you need us to do? Take it away.
Yeah, y'all can do what you want to do. I really appreciate Jason and Greg, you taking the time for being here today. Let's give them a big round of applause for coming and joining us today. So y'all are welcome to stay up here in the hot seats if you want to, or you can, resume your spot at the table, whatever you're more comfortable with. I do want to say as a thank you for speaking today, a contribution is made to our Chamber Board Scholarship, and that funds scholarships for some of our high school seniors that are going on to school. Is this on, by the way? Is it? Okay. All right. So just a few announcements as we wrap up. Again, this is our last event for 2021, so please join us for our first networking event in 2022 on January 13th. That will be our Women in Business Breakfast, again, January 13th. And we are less than 6 weeks away from our 2022 Chamber Winter Ball. You can register via the Chamber website or reach out to Colby, who's walking right there, for more information. So we'll do door prizes and wrap up. So the Chamber has provided today's door prizes. If I can ask Sarah to please come forward. And I'm just reading the script, Sarah. You shouldn't be surprised. You wrote it. All right, so we've got a few door prizes we will draw. Let's see. The first is it's a gift for you. I don't know where it's from. It just says it's a gift for you. Okay, to the Vine Cafe. Awesome. So last three numbers are 060. Well, all right. All right. The next is gift card to Place of Kai. Oh, and whoever walked in with her, 059.
I can bounce it if that's not.
059. Okay, awesome. And the last one to Gables. And we've got ticket number 007, James Bond, 007. All right. All right, so thanks again to Jason and Greg for joining us. They are going to be out front for some autographs and photos if anybody wants to take that opportunity. I do thank you again for being with us today and for speaking. That was some powerful messages. Thanks again to Google for their naming sponsorship. We are adjourned. Thank you all for being here. Have a great week. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. All right.
Yeah, you're done.
We good?
And drop the mic.
All right.
No more announcements.
On the book.
All right, y'all give them a round of applause one more time. Again, you guys know all of what they do in the community, the roles that they serve, and they took time out to learn dance moves to benefit nonprofits. That's pretty amazing. I mean, we'll call them dance moves. Okay, all right, so up first, we're going to do the People's Choice Award. So this is the most funds raised. I will tell you the great news is that you can continue to donate to these nonprofits through the rest of the evening, but we're going to go with who has raised the most money for their nonprofit as of right now, or a minute and a half ago. All right, so we'll go bottom to top. Behe will be receiving $1,600 and $1,625 on behalf of Councilman Davis. Dahlia, you have fundraised $3,690 towards the task force. That's amazing. And I know, I mean, just think about the dollars, and I know the impact that these can have, the things that it can buy is just, it's so astonishing. So I appreciate everybody's support. All right. With a whopping $7,750, second People's Choice Award will be going to Mr. Paul Zakis. And while we all loved his dance moves, our People's Choice winner, raising $21,350 for the Public Education Foundation, is Mr. Trent North. Excuse me, sorry. I should have put that in a better spot. How you feeling?
You know, I just want to, on behalf of the students of Douglas County and all of our partners and my awesome school board, we just want to say thank you. The children will truly be the benefactors of this. And the teachers are excited. Every year they're looking, because we cut a check and send it to the school. And so the teachers get to spend it how they choose to on the students. So on behalf of the students and the school board, I say thank you. And if you gave me a 10, if you need some money, let me know.
You get out of here. Congrats, Trent, People's Choice Award winner. All right. Now I'm just going to tell y'all, this little deliberation, you know, I don't know if y'all were doing the math while we were doing the scores, but they basically all got 10s all the time. So the judges have deliberated on the first annual 2021 Dancing with the Stars champion. And that is going to go to, I feel like we need a little drum roll, yeah. It is going to go to Mr. Paul Zakis. It was so close. The judges literally asked if we could give away, if we had more trophies, and we don't, I'm sorry. So, the Mirror Ball trophy goes to Mr. Paul Zakis. Y'all give him a round of applause. You want to say anything? Are you good?
Thank you. I mean, pretty awesome.
All right.
Money and everything. It's great.
Great. I appreciate it. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed our competition. This is a little fun way to celebrate coming back from the pandemic and spend some time together. Again, one more round of applause for our contestants. Want to give a big shout out to the ladies on the stage, our judges. Appreciate you all. Thanks again to our sponsors. We're not done. You guys have all seen them and their dance moves, so now it's your turn to take the dance floor. DJ Sam, look, he's already off the stage. DJ Sam Davis is here to entertain us. With the silent auction's open till 10 p.m., and then you can go ahead and purchase your wine pool tickets and grab that on your way out. So, again, thank you all so much for coming tonight. Have a great evening.